Good morning. You were the first one last week to tell us about Applebee's.
Oh, yeah. Well, we reported about that maybe 2-3 months, back in February. I think we gave the readers a heads up that was likely to be happening. And, so last week it was confirmed.
Yeah.
So this week, the big news was on Wednesday night, about 200 people packed the Clarkstown Planning Board meeting to voice their opposition to this proposal by Suez to lease the former Tilcon headquarters in West Nyack because of many facets of their proposal. And the planning board meeting stretched on till almost midnight. It was about, I think it was about 90 degrees in the room with people feeling like faint and fanning themselves. It looked like a courtroom drama out of something like Inherit the Wind. They couldn't figure out how to get any kind of air conditioning going, so it was a hot and sultry room, to say the least. But in all seriousness, Suez has leased a building and land, 27 acres, that is owned by Tilcon. And one of the big surprises that came out in the meeting is because there's so much uncertainty around the plan, and because environmentalists and residents and citizens are calling for way more review, one of the questions that came up was what they were going to be doing with their headquarters right now on West Nyack Road. And one of the surprises of the night was when Suez revealed that the building is already in contract for sale. And what they wouldn't say is whether or not whether that sale was contingent on them getting the approvals that they need for the many things that they want that are not, I don't think are just black and white. One of the big issues is that they want to install 2 above-ground fuel storage tanks to hold 8,000 gallons of gasoline, one, and the second one, 2,000 gallons of diesel for their fleet of trucks and cars. That's the one thing that they'll need a variance from the Clarkstown Fire Board of Appeals for, because the town's storage capacity is for tank is only 500 gallons. But it was I think Suez thought this would just be pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and I think that the community has risen up against this and is very concerned about everything from the proximity. Well, everything really relates to the proximity to Lake DeForest, which is our reservoir, which is our source of drinking water. But everything from leaks to contamination to disturbance of habitat for the endangered bald eagle and bog turtle came up on Wednesday night, and the hearing has been continued to May 22nd. So I had mentioned last week that this was going to be one of the big stories to watch, and it certainly is the big I'd say a big story to watch.
Yeah, left me cold in terms of I don't see any real viable objections, but I don't live there. It's not a matter
of whether you live there or not. This is not one of these, this is my backyard and I'm going to see their buildings, or, this is your drinking water, okay? It's everybody's drinking.
And it's theirs too. I mean,
I know that.
I don't think they're going to deliberately even try do anything that might compromise the standard of or the safety of the water, especially the water company.
Well, not deliberately, no, but some issues that were raised that I think that they weren't that their engineers weren't necessarily prepared for is, Tilcon blasts twice a day. You live up in Stony Point, but I live in Valley Cottage, and I live what seems to be quite a distance from the mine, and yet my house shakes every single day between 12 and 2 when that blast goes off.
Well, I thought you said that's abandoned property, that Tilcon.
No, that's only a portion of their property.
Okay.
So, yeah, the quarry is still in operation, and the blasting still goes on, and this is a 27 piece of their acreage that they have leased to Suez. So one issue that was raised was this notion that, somebody said, well, are these fuel tanks, blast proof? And the engineer looked pretty stunned, and he said, oh yeah, they're blast tested, and when pushed, he said, yeah, they set up a blast right next to the tank to see if it's blast proof. And what people were pointing out is that Tilcon blasts every single day, well, at least Monday to Friday. I don't know if they blast on the weekends, but they blast every single day, sometimes twice a day. And people all over this area have like cracks in their foundation, and the constant blasting has an effect. So that was just one. That's an example of just one question that was raised that their engineers really didn't seem to have an adequate answer for. The other issue is okay, they have a stormwater management system, that's fine, but we get these superstorms now, not once in 100 years, but as you know, much more frequently. So there's all this potential, traveling of contaminants like oils and diesels and whatever else comes up off the road down into the reservoir. So no, I don't think that necessarily this international company, wants to go out and intentionally poison its water. On the other hand, I guess people feel that with, corporate greed or you see things like Flint, Michigan, and there's the sense that this is not a foolproof plan. So the planning board, I'll editorialize here. If they're smart, they will give this over to independent review rather than taking it onto themselves to make a determination. And that's essentially what there were a few environmental lawyers in the room that night standing up and speaking and basically saying that this needs to be reviewed beyond, not just the planning board, but experts need to come in and determine the potential environmental impacts here. And I think that's fair, don't you?
I guess so, yeah. We'll see what happens on the 22nd. That's all I can say.
Yeah, the 22nd, I imagine, hopefully they'll hold that meeting downstairs so that people aren't fainting. It really was quite a scene in there with, people yelling at them to move the meeting downstairs, and they would just kind of, and then at one point some guy was coming around giving out bottles of water. So there was a bit of that drama. But yeah, May 22nd, planning board meeting, the hearing was continued, and this hearing ended at around midnight, and there were still hundreds of people who wanted to be heard. So,
yeah.
I think we'll have to see how this unravels, but definitely a story to keep a pin in.
What else have you got?
What else have we got? Let me think. Let's see. Well, we, Party City is closing. Yeah, it's another one, closing 45 stores. I don't know if it will affect the Nanuet store, but again, it's another sign that as I've been saying, that the reliance on retail is sketchy, and that we really need to diversify our economy here. So we'll watch that one. And what else is going on? Let me think. The new round of CFA funding has opened again. Those are all those grants that the state gives out. So businesses need to pay attention to that if they want funding, because that could take a business to a whole new level. And what else? I don't know. That's
well, as items or articles become, or especially newsworthy business matters become available, they're posted immediately, and that's the advantage of the RocklandBusinessJournal.com. You don't have to
That's
wait for a
right.
weekly publication. It gets on there as soon as you become aware of them. Of course, check them out to see if they're viable, and then it's posted in that journal.
You got it.
So you could have different stories every day if it's warranted. Well, there you go.
We do. Online 24/7, bringing Rockland County's business news to you. RCBizJournal.com.
There you go. Tina, thanks. We'll talk to you next week.